Welcome to Libraries Connecting Texas. I am Caroline Wolf, and I am joining you from our North Carolina office with Kyle Lewis. And we have Jennifer Williams, Jenny Harwood, and Brandy Krubaugh. And we're hoping our newest LCT staff member, Cheryl, is going to be here in a minute, but we'll see. Okay, so Cheryl and Kennedy are both here apparently. So I'm going to go ahead. There's Cheryl. So Cheryl and Kennedy are both here. All right, now all the gang's here. So here we go. We're going to start our presentation, and remember, we're going to be putting this recording on our Libraries Connecting Texas YouTube as well. I'm going to talk a little bit about funding and some reminders. Jennifer's going to talk about the filing window. Kyle's going to talk about next steps, and Jenny's going to talk about some things that are happening with the FCC, who makes all of the rules for the E-rate program. It's something that affects you, so it's something you should pay attention to. So let's go into the summary of LCT funding. Of course, we haven't had any funding commitments for 2022 yet because they haven't issued any, but the applications that have been filed for 2022 are all in review, and already we're seeing a lot of LCT libraries that are wave ready. That means they're probably going to be in the first or second funding wave. So congratulations to all of you who got your 471s filed already. If you haven't filed your 471 for 2022, it's time to do it now. Of course, unless you have a procurement that's going on right now and you haven't reached your allowable contract date. Wait till you reach your allowable contract date, and then make your motions towards filing your Form 471 before March 22nd, which is the last date to file. So, and some other things that you should be aware of, tomorrow is the last day to file invoices. If you didn't get your invoice in by October 28th, which was the deadline to file invoices for your recurring services in 2020, February 25th is the last day for most applicants. I think there were a few applicants that were affected by Hurricane Ida that got a special invoice extension, but I think for most of the Libraries Connecting Texas people, we've got a deadline tomorrow to file invoices. So double check if you haven't filed your bearer form, and make sure that you looked at your bills, that you got your discounts on your bill, because in some cases you're going to miss out if you don't get your invoice in by tomorrow. So be aware of that. And so we'll move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about the 471 filing window.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. So this is where we actually get to apply for the discounts. If you're under contract, you'll want to gather your invoicing. So your most current bill is sufficient. This is where you will seek for your discounts for the services. It'll then, once you certify that, keep in mind what invoicing method you'd like to choose, whether it's SPI, which is the service provider invoice, or the bearer, where you will pay for the full amount and get reimbursed at the end. Most of the libraries that have already certified are, like Caroline said, sitting wave ready or in PIA review. You can go to the next slide now. Present proposal and contracts for board approval. If it is required by your library's board, make sure that you get it in prior to March 22nd, because that is the deadline. You will file your Form 471 within the filing windows. It must be, again, submitted and certified online in Epic no later than March 22nd at 11:59 p.m.
That's Eastern time, by the way. So that's actually 10:59 Texas time.
We cannot express enough that it closes March 22nd. Must be certified before the deadline. If you miss this deadline, you will then have to file an FCC waiver, and it must be granted. And it can take months for the FCC to decide on it. So please, please, please get your 471 certified by March 22nd. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to us and we will help you. We do have our Come File With Us sessions that we did. They are available on our YouTube channel. It gives a tutorial on how to upload a new contract. So if your 470 is out there, after the procurement closes, you want to either get a contract signed or an intent to award letter, and then it'll show you how to upload that new contract. Make sure if you are a multi-year contract, which you did not have to go out to bid, that's where you'll use your invoice to complete your 471.
All right, is this Kyle?
Yep. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Caroline. Considering next steps, and this will be after the 471 is drafted by you. Please go ahead and save and share the document with us. And with that, we can help review it for quality assurance sake and help you check, cross all your T's and dot your I's. And we will try to review and return them within a 48-hour period. We're hoping to help you minimize errors on the Form 471 that would cause you to potentially receive program integrity assurance questions, or may require you to file a new Form 471 to replace the original. So we definitely advocate for you sharing with us copies that you have before certification. Moving on to the next slide. Here's the information about the program integrity assurance. This is a team at the Universal Service Administrative Company who will review all Form 471 applications. They may have questions about the funding request that you include on the Form 471, and they will send an inquiry to you that you should receive an email alert for. However, if you receive an email alert, it may be misdirected to your spam or junk folder. So just please occasionally check that folder just in case. That email should have a link directly to the inquiry, and you'll have 15 calendar days to respond to it. If you have any questions about an inquiry, please let us know and we can help you draft an appropriate response. But if you don't receive an inquiry, that's not terribly uncommon either. You will need to take no action if you don't receive an inquiry. Deadlines. As Caroline mentioned at the start of the call here, the funding year 2020 BEAR deadlines is tomorrow. We have identified 9 libraries that don't have an invoice mode set, BEAR or SPY, for at least one funding request that your library may have. We have reached out to a number of you individually, and if you can just please work with us to help you complete these items. I know a number of this 9 libraries has already been able to certify a BEAR or has been able to work with their service provider to ask them to complete their SPY invoice. So please work with us and we can try to help you get these filed. It's unlikely that you'll be able to extend again after the deadline tomorrow. So it's important to get it done today if possible. And again, just to reiterate, the Form 471 deadline for funding year 2022 is March 22nd at 10:59 p.m. Central Time. If at all possible, please file this week or next week and just get ahead of it beforehand, because that deadline will creep up on you.
And the system slows down the closer you get to the deadline because everybody's trying to file at the last minute. So don't be one of those last minute people.
Caroline's absolutely right.
All right, Jenny, what's this big news from the FCC?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Caroline. For better or for worse, we have a proposal out from the FCC, who is as Caroline said, they govern the program. It is the Federal Communications Commission, and they have recently released a NPRM, or a Notice of Proposed Rulemaking. I'm going to cover the high-level summary of what's in the NPRM, but it's pretty big changes that they are looking at doing. And one of the big pieces of that is a nationwide bidding portal that would require service providers to submit their bids in response to Form 470s in a nationwide portal rather than directly to libraries or schools. So much more control by the government on this program. If adopted, and we won't know anything for months, but if adopted, it will be available for use in July a year. So we're looking at this for funding year 2024 if it does pass. So some high level points or changes that are being proposed is the mandatory bid portal. And that's, again, where service providers would submit all bidding documents that's managed by use into the portal managed by USAC. They would be prohibited from doing anything outside of that proposed or outside of that system in terms of sending proposals. So, which also means that proposals would be withheld from the library until the allowable contract date or the bid close date. So, and then they would be released for bid evaluation. So again, a lot more control over the whole process. The other piece is communication. So any communications that takes place between the library and the service providers would have to be done in the portal as well. So any questions or clarifications would take place in the portal and not directly between the two parties. So, and not even permitted to happen outside of the process. And that's a good practice, is making sure that all of that correspondence is transparent to all, because it has to be a fair and open process. So, that's not surprising, and that is something that we would recommend doing anyway. That's why we have a Q&A period that allows vendors to ask questions, and then we answer those questions publicly in an addendum. So we already do that, but the control would be on the other side, on the federal side.
We have a question. Kathy wants to know about what happens for smaller vendors that only service a small area. They would need to provide responses in that portal as well. It would be probably just a website that you would have to put into your Form 470, or that's where the 470 would be, and then they would have to go to that portal and submit the bid in that portal. So we don't know exactly how it would work, but your service provider to respond to your 470 would have to submit a response there, regardless of how small the area that they service.
Good question, Kathy. And as you think of any more questions, please submit them and we can talk about them. And then the third thing about what's in this proposal is requiring documentation to be submitted to USAC when you submit your Form 471. So right now it's optional to upload a contract. And that's really the only requirement. You just have to create a contract record with the contract terms and pricing and everything. This would require a lot more documentation. So they're proposing to have applicants upload completed bid evaluation matrices, explanations for any bids that were disqualified, a list of all of the evaluators who played a role in the evaluation process, memos, board minutes, or other documents related to bid awards, copies of the notices to winners, any correspondence that took place between the service provider up to and during the competitive bidding process, the evaluation timeline, and the award phase of the process. And then also uploading contracts or other documents that outline the services, the cost, and the term. So, this is sweeping changes to what we're required to do now. So some of you may be thinking, oh my gosh, this is, I've got to speak up about this. There's a lot of noise right now in the E-rate community about how this could affect or violate even local or state procurement rules. So if you have, so the way that the NPRM works and the way that the FCC governs is they release this notice of program rulemaking and they allow plenty of time for stakeholders and they encourage, they're seeking comments and replies from stakeholders. So if you have a strong opposition to this proposal, then it is a good idea to file comments. Join up with your city or your county offices if this is going to be problematic for your library. Comments can be filed have to be filed electronically in the ECF system, the electronic comment filing system that the FCC has, and then you'll want to reference proceeding docket 21-455. And I've provided that URL of how to get to that webpage and submit your comments. They give you, we have a couple more months left to submit comments. So initial comments are due by March 28th and reply comments are then due a month later, April 27th. The reply comments time frame is for you to see any comments that were submitted and add on to them, or anything you may have forgotten initially, or any initial comments you have to file, you can file up till April 27th. So those are the changes that are proposed and could be problematic for a lot of us. So think about submitting comments.
And if you have any questions about that, we're a good resource to help you if it's something you're interested in doing and maybe you are having trouble submitting comments or format, we can help you. Just send an email to lct@eratecentral.com and we're happy to help.
Any other questions? I'll hand it back over to you, Caroline. Thanks.
Thanks, Jenny. So giving y'all a last opportunity to ask questions if there are any other questions about anything about the 471. the 470, the 471, or invoicing. Do be aware that, you may be thinking, oh, well, my service provider is doing SPI billing. But do you know that? Did you look at your bill? Make sure that you checked it. If you think that if you were thinking that you were getting SPI billing, don't just assume you did. We are reaching out to you. If your invoice mode hasn't been set, that would mean that your service provider didn't submit a SPI. So if we've reached out to you and you didn't submit a bear, you should be concerned and reach out to us and let us help you file a bear. So be aware of that. Deadline tomorrow, February 25th, and then make sure you get your application filed. We are not having a March LCT webinar, but we'll be back in April with all kinds of information about how many people have been funded in the first wave, we hope. So if there are no more questions, have a great afternoon and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.